Good afternoon and welcome to the John DeVito Show. Today's date is January 6th, 2024. Now, the date January 6th, does that mean anything to you? It should. This is the day where the horrible, terrible, traitorous, Make America Great Again crowd stormed the Capitol building for the Great Insurrection, the worst event in American history. That's what the Democrats told us anyway, right? So let's talk about January 6th a little bit. So there were a lot of concerns that during the election of 2020, people felt that Joe Biden getting 81 million votes was completely impossible. People stayed up late at night and they saw votes switching in the middle of the night. People saw the voting poll places that were counting the votes shut down operation in the middle of the night. They were blocking windows. There were vans dropping off ballots. There were videos of people pulling boxes from underneath tables in these counting areas. And there were a lot of people that felt that the election of 2020 was stolen from Donald Trump. Now, if you take away his 81 million votes, the 76 million that Trump had gotten would have been the most in American history. Joe Biden did not campaign. Joe Biden did not leave his basement. Trump was having rallies with tens of thousands of people. And somehow, a man that many believe has cognitive issues, a man that did not go on the campaign trail at all, a man that really was one of the least polarizing personalities in the history of anyone running for president, somehow got more votes than Trump, more votes than Obama, more votes than Reagan, Clinton, anybody. And so on January 6th, Donald Trump was hoping that Mike Pence would send the results back to the states, not certify them. The vice president of the United States has that capability. And Trump had a speech earlier that day and encouraged people to walk to the Capitol building. And if you watch the video, I sat home and watched this all day. I saw the entire video from beginning to end live on national TV. I saw a peaceful protest. People were lined up outside of the Capitol building. And then all of a sudden, the Capitol Police opened the doors, pulled back the barricades, and they allowed the Make America Great people into the Capitol building. Then they had videos inside the Capitol building showing the people that were just let in literally walking. There were barriers on either side of like a hallway. And these, rioters, as they say, were walking down this little hallway with their phones out. They were taking videos. They were taking pictures. They were looking around. They were not breaking anything. They were not inciting violence. They were filing in a single file line into the Capitol building. And honestly, if I had been there and the Capitol Police opened the doors and welcomed me in, I probably would have gone in. I would have gone in trusting that, okay, we're going to get a chance to voice our opinion and we're going to get a chance to go in. We're being invited into the Capitol building. So after a lot of time, things escalated. And many, many, many people believe that Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats were behind this entire day. It was incredibly insightful for Nancy Pelosi to have hired her daughter to film the entire day. I'm not sure exactly how they did that, but they found she thought that filming this was going to be something that needed to be done. So it's amazing that she had that foresight, and she was kind of like psychic in that way, knowing that something was going to happen. Then, when you break down the video after the fact, we talk about the government operative who was a Democrat, Ray Epps. Now, why was Ray Epps there? Why was Ray Epps, who is a well-known Democrat, a supporter of the Democratic Party, why was he there on film wearing a Make America Great hat on, encouraging everybody to storm the Capitol building and to take it over? Why was he there doing that? Now, my guess is that if Ray Epps was there on the payroll hired by Nancy Pelosi and the other treasonous traitors communists, then there were others that were also there. Now, I'm not saying that some people on the right did not make bad decisions and take things further than they should. But January 6th, in my opinion, was orchestrated and incited by the Democratic Party. You have Ashley Babbitt that was shot and killed. She was an American hero. She was shot and killed that day. And the Democrats have done everything they could to impeach Trump, to prosecute Trump, to pin this entirely on Trump, this January 6th insurrection, as they say. Now, let's compare that before we get into talking more about this. Let's talk about the BLM riots, the Black Lives Matter riots of 2020, right? So people are outraged by January 6th. As far as the George Floyd riots, the Black Lives Matter riots, people were calling them peaceful protests. People were saying that these were justified. And if you watched any of the speeches being given, you had Nancy Pelosi, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters, AOC, Ayanna Pressley, and other Democrats were giving interviews telling the American people that day to take their anger to the streets. We need to have unrest on the streets to show our disgust in what happened to George Floyd. So the BLM riots, the Black Lives Matter riots, were considered peaceful protests. That's what the media called them. That's what the government called them. That's what all the propaganda channels were calling them. Let's take a look at the two and compare the two side by side to see which one was more violent and which one was less violent. So we're going to go down this, comparing the two of them in several different categories. Okay? Let's start with the Black Lives Matter riots, where there were over 500 different riots across the country. January 6th was one day of, quote unquote, an insurrection. Now, the Black Lives Matter riots, they lasted between 7 and 8 months. 7 and 8 months. January 6th lasted a couple of hours. The Black Lives Matter riots had over 20 murders. January 6th, 0 murders by participants, and the only person murdered was Ashley Babbitt, who was an unarmed hero of our country that was murdered that day by a person on the left. Black Lives Matter riots. Hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses were destroyed by vandalism, by looting, by fire. Destroyed. Destroyed. On January 6th, there were no small businesses destroyed. The BLM riots. There were 150 federal buildings damaged. January 6th, 1 federal building damaged. The BLM riots. There was somewhere between 1 and 2 billion with a B, dollars worth of damage throughout all the riots over that 7 or 8 month period of time. The damage on January 6th, 1.5 million. The Black Lives Matter riots. There were 2,037 officers assaulted by this peaceful protest. January 6th, there were 140 officers assaulted. BLM riots. Protesters were bailed out of jail. January 6th, the protesters were kept in solitary confinement. The BLM riots. They were encouraged by the media and numerous politicians, as we talked about earlier. January 6th, they were encouraged by the fringe, political groups, and agitators. Some people say the Proud Boys were involved, but many feel that the main source of incitement and agitators came from the left. The Black Lives Matter group, the politicians who were inciting the riots on television and video and social media. So for the BLM riots, there was literally national encouragement from the politicians, the propaganda machines, the television, everything, the news, encouragement. People loved it. January 6th, national outrage. Digest that for a second. Sit back and think about it. Sit back and think about what the truth is between these 2 days. January 6th was orchestrated by the left because they knew Trump won. They knew that there was going to be an issue with the recounts and with the vote because they knew they cheated. They did everything they could to turn the country against Trump. Now, don't forget, they've done this from day one. From the time Trump was elected president, they said, AOC, Pelosi said immediately they were going to impeach him. They were going to throw him out of office. Then we saw a 4-year onslaught like we've never seen against any sitting president, where they were out to destroy him. The Russian collusion, all the different stories that were made up about him, other ones where they were looking deep back into his past. They were doing anything they could to discredit him. He's been arrested. He's been indicted. He's been impeached. And they are still out to get him even today, where now the Democrats are trying to remove him from ballots all across the country. So when you look at what side cheated, did the Republicans cheat or did the Democrats cheat? It's a pretty clear answer. And why did the Democrats want Trump out of office? Why do they want to prevent him from getting back into the Oval Office again? Why do they hate him? Is it any surprise when you look at the list of people that were on Epstein's Island, why they wanted him off? We're talking about the rich, the powerful, royalty, politicians, movie stars, very wealthy corporate executives. All of these people were involved with sex trafficking. All of these people were involved with raping children on Epstein's Island. Many of these people, the families that are tied to the Illuminati, are basically Satanists. They are people that have aligned with Satan, and you can read about it. If you don't believe me when I say this, you can either listen to my podcast about the families of the Illuminati or just Google it. Look it up yourself. Look at the Rothschilds. Look at the Onassises. Look at the Kennedys. Look at these different families, the Bundys. I mean, they're all there. They're all there. And many of them are involved with Satanist practices. So you wonder, why has there been such an attempt to destroy Donald Trump? Because they know if the curtain is pulled back and we see the wizard, we're going to finally know the truth about who's running this country and who is running the world. So January 6th, you're going to hear all about it today. The Democratic politicians are pushing it. The propaganda machines are pushing it. The fake news media is pushing it. They're all pushing it on you. They're all brainwashing you. And why are they doing it? It's pretty simple. They want Trump out. Trump is the only person that's telling the truth. And until people start getting on board with the idea that the Democratic Party is now gone, it no longer exists. It's been hijacked by extremists. These are people that have aligned with the World Economic Forum, Schwab, Soros, the whole group. They want a one world government. They want to take away our freedom. They want to take away our guns. They want to control every aspect of our lives. And Trump is the one person that's standing in their way. That's why January 6th was called the worst day in American history. But the Black Lives Matter rallies were celebrated. We just gave you the comparison. Which of the two is worse? If you're on the left and you hate Trump, prove me wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. Tell me how I am faulty in describing this. I'm not. And the sad thing is, so many people out there are so brainwashed by the media, they just don't get it. So for all of you out there, this is going to be a 15-minute podcast. I want you all to listen to it. Please tell a friend about it. Please share this if you can to others. We need to all start understanding this is us versus them. It's no longer Democrat versus Republican. It's us versus them. And January 6th, the great insurrection, was a sham orchestrated by our overlords. Everybody have a great day. I love all of you. Thank you for tuning into the John DeVito Show. please share it with a friend. Have a great day.